Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another broadcast this evening of this insightful program with Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Thank you for being here again, sir, after the 1 week of a break to make some updates to our systems. And I wanted to thank our viewers as well. I can see people are logging in already. Thank you very much to those of you who have come back this week to join the program. And just to say that over the coming weeks, we will continue to make updates to the system, and we'll be rolling those out gradually, and you will see the changes. Prof, thank you once again, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Sir, let's start with COP26. It's come, it's gone. A lot of people are disappointed. Where do you stand on the outcome of COP26?
Well, you know, I thought I was the only person who had an emotional side to me, which at times had led to some embarrassing public situations. Until I saw the president of the conference practically breaking down in tears as he rounded up the conference and expressed his frustration at the sad ending of the conference. How critical parts of the declaration were watered down because of objection of one or two countries. See, unfortunately, due to the decision initially made that things would be by consensus, all of them meant that opposition by one country, especially a critical country, they will have to water it down if they want to get that country to sign on. And when India objected very, very strongly to the passage paragraph dealing with coal, fossil, from say the original wording was to abolish the coal section, to simply downgrading it, to bringing it down. The man was practically in tears. In fact, he was rescued by the conference, who broke into applause for him in recognition of the hard work. So I am not out of line. It's not the usual prof who is never satisfied with anything talking now. I think most of the world was appalled at the outcome of the conference. And you know what? The heavens themselves were appalled, because this week, did you see, number one, the weather that forced the same India to practically shut down its cities, ordered schools to close. The same thing in Pakistan. People couldn't breathe, which was what, climate degradation was all about. And then in Canada, in the United States, you now saw flooding. So it's there used to be a saying that a preacher got up on the pulpit and read out a declaration, and there was thunder, as if the heavens were clapping in support of what he has said. Well, what has happened this week, weather-wise, was heaven saying, you didn't take me. I sent messages to you. You didn't take me seriously. Well, I'll also show you what I feel about the conference that you have just held. It was a disappointment, major disappointment.
But sir, where do we now go? It's a given that it appears we have missed this opportunity to make significant change. It's going to take some years before we get this opportunity for this group to come together again like this to discuss this issue. As you have rightly highlighted, the climate is showing its hand, things are worsening. Where do we go from here?
Well, one of the resolutions taken was that they will have to meet yearly for government to not only review their commitment, but also to show how far in 1 year they have met. It's like, having signposts, bullet points. How far did you go? If you've made commitment for 5 years or 10 years, 1 year is gone. How far? And the commitments made this year, given what the weather has then done in that 1 year, are you sure we shouldn't review this? And that was a clever and wise move, because it's giving leaders a chance to review their commitments. I've called out India. India is not the only one. So they had disagreements over how much compensation should be paid to low-income and middle-income countries who have not contributed to the climate degradation, and yet themselves will now have to pay, or will now have to take measures that are detrimental to their economic growth. And the United States, that's made a lot of song and dance and what have you, refused to even the commitments made financially in Paris, is it 5 years ago or so? Those commitments have not even been met. Not to now talk about new commitments. And as I said earlier on, before the conference, that I wouldn't want the high-income countries to regard financial commitment to the low-income and medium-income countries as an act of charity. Wasn't sure whether it's supposed to be an aid package, or whether it's outright grant, given the fact that it is the high-income countries that are actually responsible for the state the world is in. But in fact, whichever one it is, they haven't made the commitment in the past, and there is no evidence that they're going to make, that they're going to commit substantially. But who knows whether, look, how dumb can politicians be? Honestly, everywhere you turn, you see evidence in almost every country of the punishment that nature can inflict on all of us. And yet, you still remain stubborn. Are they waiting for the death of the earth? Well, the thing that I have read is that our planet is not going to die. We, the people, are the ones who are going to die. The planet will reinvent itself. After all, when that asteroid hit the earth and destroyed practically all nature, when the what did you call them, all died off, the earth reinvented itself and we came along. Well, this, if we attempt to kill this earth, we are going to be the victims, and the earth will then reinvent itself. So I don't know what else to say. I think that the youth whose future these old people are toying with have got to become desperate in really frightening the old people who are ruling this world now. They've got to bring governments to a halt. Precipitate a crisis. We are in the middle of a climatic crisis. I think the youth have to get more desperate in what they are doing.
Thank you for that, sir. Hopefully, there wouldn't be a big bang in our time like it happened then.
Mm.
Sir, let us talk about a visit that is, or a tour, should I say, that is going on right now in Africa by the United States Secretary of State. Before we delve into that, he has chosen three countries on this occasion: Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal. Um, are those the right countries for the United States to have chosen at this point in time?
I have tried to think of the rationale behind the choice of those three countries. I'm surprised at the omission of South Africa. I thought it should have been a four-nation trip. I'm not surprised at the choice of Nigeria, irrespective of the dysfunctionality going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is still a major actor on the African continent. I'm not surprised at the choice of Kenya, given its proximity to Sudan and Ethiopia. It's probably more to encourage Kenya to be more involved in seeking a solution to what's going on in that area, and perhaps making promises in order to empower Kenya to be more active. Senegal surprises me. But maybe they are trying to do a balancing in terms of Senegal being a French-speaking African country. And of all the Francophonies, as they are called, especially given the instability in Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal is seen as the pivotal nation among French-speaking African countries, and perhaps that's why it was picked. But you see, 2 days ago, a report came out by 2 think tanks in the United States, the Council on Foreign Relations, and I know Harris, Richard Harris, the president, very well, and Harvard School of Governance. And the report was anchored by Campbell, a former American ambassador to Nigeria. And that report actually says, if I could just paraphrase it, that Nigeria is on the last step to collapse. And the consequences of this, not only for West Africa, not only for Africa, but the spilling over into Europe of refugees that will be the consequence of this collapse of Nigeria. So if you regard 12 midnight as the collapse time, that Nigeria was 2 minutes or 1 minute to 12 midnight in terms of stability. It's a very unfortunate coincidence that that report will come out on the eve of the trip by the Secretary of State to Nigeria. In a way, there's some dysfunctionality, even in American policy as well towards Nigeria, because while this same Secretary of State was removing Nigeria from the list of people that they are worried about because of religious intolerance, this religious intolerance is one of the factors that this think tank report identified for, the anticipated collapse of Nigeria. So, to answer your question, the trip to me, frankly, is more a protocol trip than a trip that's supposed to produce substantive results.
Sir, one point that has been raised, particularly in Nigeria on this trip, and the Secretary of State has been called out on this point, and it's this issue, sir, that they were not involved in Africa as a means of combating China, but they're in Africa to improve the standard of infrastructure without countries becoming burdened by debt. Is that believable, sir?
No, it isn't believable. It is not. The policies simply don't start yesterday. Policies evolve. The United States, even under Obama and definitely under Trump, had said loudly that they were worried about Chinese involvement in infrastructural development, in definitely Kenya and Nigeria. In fact, the pressure on the president of Nigeria was so that he cancelled what they call the East-West Railway project that the previous Jonathan administration had given to the Chinese. And the Chinese were prepared to move on site. He cancelled it, gave it to an American company, and that was the last. That was the last anybody heard about that project, because it just didn't make sense. I mean, the United States is just approving its own infrastructural bill to upgrade their own systems, which are how many centuries behind that in Japan, China, and so on. And yet you put pressure to cancel the one given to Japan and give to an American company that has no experience of modern infrastructural railway development. So it's to bring back the influence of the United States in Africa. But the problem that I see is the security problems that Africa face. The security problems that Africa face, which will call for use of force to deal with the terrorist forces, are precisely the kind of thing that Congress then gets its nose into and starts talking about human rights, denying them the weapons that they need by a congressman just objecting, who has very, very little knowledge about Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Uganda. These are countries that in the past 1 week have been hit by activities of terrorist organizations. But irrespective of whatever promises are made during this trip, those promises can simply be thrown out of the window by a recalcitrant Congress.
Sir, I want to call your attention to a point here, specifically on Nigeria, because number one, Nigeria has been taken off the list of countries that are intolerant when it comes from a religious point of view. Again, he's talked about, look, this is investment in Nigeria, and he said that developed G7 countries are going to continue to invest in Africa and in Nigeria. And they also signed a $2 billion investment deal that will help Nigeria with security. Isn't this a significant win for the Nigerian government and an endorsement of sorts by the United States?
I completely, agree with you bringing this out. But my problem is, in fact, if I was still teaching in the university, I will get one of my PhD students to do a study on commitments, financial commitments, security commitments, strategic commitments made by the United States over a period of 20 years, and how many of those commitments saw the light of day. at the end of, I saw the light at the end of the day. In fact, think about the only country that United States doesn't mess with when it comes to promises, commitments, and so on, is Israel. And it's, of course, it's because of the strong Israeli lobby in Congress. But commitments made by the United States, until you see those commitments transmute into actions, into deliveries, it doesn't get you anywhere. Doesn't get you anywhere. And don't forget, don't forget that the planes, the Air Force planes that were finally delivered this year were actually paid for under Trump. So we are talking about things paid for, I think, 6 years ago. So we are just being delivered this year. And through that period, they could have been vetoed by a senator or, a United States senator. Why during that period they could have even given you weapons that they are no longer using, because they have a lot of these weapons in storage. And that's what they do to Israel. When they make promises to fill in that gap, planes can be delivered to Israel. We are talking within 1 week, 2 weeks. But our own took 6 years or so.
So there's a point I want to raise again with regards to the U.S. Secretary of State and this Africa tour. When the United States had a problem with the border crisis with Mexico, they sent Vice President Kamala Harris. We know she was in Paris recently and discussing some points there in Paris. Would it have been more significant for Nigeria and for Africa if it was Kamala Harris that made this trip to Africa?
Well, some of the things that the United States, their processes often surprise me, whether they are using, whether they are putting their best foot forward. However, I am aware that there is a debate going on in Washington as to whether she's not been sidelined, whether she's actually being used to maximum effect, whether her office is not being pushed aside by the White House. Now, problems between presidents and vice presidents in the United States are not new. Different presidents treat their vice presidents differently, because in the American Constitution, actually no role is assigned to the vice president. It all depends on the goodwill and, I would think, the good sense of the president. Now, to me, the last time a vice president was treated in a rather cavalier way by the White House was the way the Kennedy White House treated Lyndon Johnson. It was very evident to everyone, and I was in the United States at that time, that that there was no respect paid Lyndon Johnson. Since then, things have improved a lot. And I'm surprised that Biden, whom Obama treated with all respect, with all consideration. In fact, I think those two had breakfast once a week, just the two of them, no aides, nothing, and so on, so they could speak openly to each other. The assignments that Obama gave Biden allowed Biden to travel through the United States, all over the United States, selling big chunks of their program. Now, you made reference to Kamala Harris being sent to deal with the border issue, which no American president ever resolves. That's like being sent to Siberia. Nothing concrete is going to come out of it. And that's what you gave her to do. Now, you've just signed this major infrastructural bill that has been touted as, a golden flag of the administration. Then you call up a retired mayor to be the coordinator of the project. This is something I thought you would give your vice president. Yes, the president himself will move around to a few places, and then he will get distracted by China, distracted by Russia, and so on. But your VP, it will be the issue that your VP will tackle. But you call up, as I said, a retired mayor, and stories are then planted in American papers about how they are disappointed in her performance. Actually, the president is thinking of promoting her to the Supreme Court so he could appoint another vice president and that kind of thing. Well, they seem to have forgotten that it is Kamala Harris people who actually resurrected Biden. His political career was dead in the waters after New Hampshire, Iowa, and all those caucuses. It was when he got to where your states that had big Black majority voters that resurrected his political career. Where were all these his aides who are now running down Kamala Harris? And really, to me, the solution is simple. I don't even think she should complain. I know that, she held a TV interview to say she's not being sidelined. Of course, what do you expect her to say? What? The chief of staff to the president probably gave her a call and said, the president wonders why you are being quiet. Are you really being sidelined? We don't think so. Anyway, this television station will call you Congress. Then all these African American pastors who are busy showing up at court trials, they should seek an appointment with the president go to the Oval Office and say, we will remember how this woman is being treated when re-election time comes. We will remember. Our people have a choice to stay home. If when we do our own part in resurrecting your political career, this is the result, and that our people are also getting angry with us, the leaders, that is this the payoff for the electoral support that we gave. So really, even if she's been sent to Africa, there are people who also will have been said, oh, she was sent out of the way. So whatever they do is a no-win situation, both for her and for the Biden administration. It's more the way they are treating her. The solution is more fundamental than just being sent. If I remember, I said it reminds me of the way Lyndon Johnson was treated by the Kennedys. I remember Lyndon Johnson complaining that they only send me to attend funerals of leaders and presidents abroad. That's all I do in this administration, to show his frustration. I'm talking about Lyndon Johnson now, who was vice president at that time.
Yeah, but sir, you talk about some groups coming up to go to the White House. Would that be enough? Should they be more vocal in the press? Should they be more vocal supporting Kamala Harris in their position and their stance, rather than just White House? Because they may not have that access to the White House like one would expect them to.
Oh, no. The Black Caucus has access to the White House. They do. And Biden knows it. Biden knows it. The most powerful Black legislator in Congress was actually the man who made Biden the last time. And he reminded him when he was picking his cabinet that they are expecting payoffs. If he asks for an appointment to see the president, he will get it. I can't remember his name now, but he's the most powerful, congressman in the United States at the moment.
While we're on Africa, let's go to South Africa and talk about the death of F.W. de Klerk. I'm not sure if you ever met him, but sir, how do you think he will be remembered? Being the last president of South Africa and the one who helped to end apartheid. Some have said he did it for his own reasons. Others have said he had the right intentions. How do you remember him, sir?
Well, I never met him personally, but he did. There is an episode which will turn up in my memoirs whenever I get round to writing it. We had a meeting of the non-aligned conference in Zimbabwe, and the king of Lesotho was there, and President Babangida was there. And the king of Lesotho complained to President Babangida that Nigeria ignores Lesotho, and that we seem to have forgotten that he is surrounded all by South Africa, and that the visit by a Nigerian official will be a morale booster and encourage them, and will be a signal to the apartheid regime that they should treat them at least with some respect. And the king of Lesotho said to President Babangida, I'm not asking you to come. You are too busy. But at least you can send your foreign minister. He's been to Mozambique. He's been to Zimbabwe. He's been to... And IBB, in his own typical way, said, well, Mr. Minister, you are going to Lesotho after the conference, after this conference. And of course, what do you want me to say? I just say, yes, sir. And so a plane, after the conference and the delegation, the rest of the delegation left for Nigeria, a plane was sent to take me and my delegation to Lesotho. So we landed in Botswana to pick up our ambassador, who was concurrently accredited to Lesotho. And just before we boarded the plane, the captain said he's been told by the control tower of South Africa that the plane will have to land in South Africa for security inspection before it's allowed to fly on to Lesotho. Of course, we know what was going to happen. They would have used that picture to say Nigerian foreign minister visits South Africa. And this was at a time when there was total boycott by African state of this. So, of course, I didn't even have to refer back to Lagos. I said, no, we are not going to do that. They should inform the king of Lesotho that I apologize. These are the conditions laid down by the South Africans. And the clerk was the president then, and that I'm going to have to then turn around and go back to Lagos. The king, I was told the king was furious, and he really took the head off the clerk in speaking to him. Message came back, all right, we can fly now all the way to Lesotho without stopping. There was not a debate in my delegation because the pilot brought it to attention that it will be night by the time we fly over South Africa. And that it will be night by the time we land in Lesotho. And that anything could happen. By the time we get into the airspace, if he was asked to land, well, he will have to obey. And especially, this is after that plane carrying Samora Machel, president of Mozambique, mysteriously crashed. So I had to take a decision. Do we proceed with the mission, or do I abort the mission? So I aborted the mission, and we flew back to. So that was, if you like, with the clerk, the episode that still is very fresh in my memory. Should I have continued with the trip? I really don't know. Most of my inner cabinet in the ministry often thought that I took too many risks. And that I ought to be looking at the larger picture. Anyway, now I have no regard. I know we shouldn't speak ill of the dead, so they say. But don't forget what Shakespeare said. The evil that men do, live after them. The good is often interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar. He was one of the most evil leaders in South Africa. The Pan-Africanists, African liberation leaders, Steve Biko, who died miserable deaths under this man should not be forgotten. Now, the point has been made that in his favor was the fact that he released Mandela and handed over power to him. Yes, he handed the empty shell of political power to him. Having achieved what he wanted to achieve, which was to secure the continuing economic domination of South Africa by the white economic elite. And that is why till today, one of the sources of violence and instability and poverty and lack of growth and development in South Africa. He achieved two things. The first was that they creamed off the top of the ANC leadership and bought them over. If you recall some of the things we said on this program, Zuma said he got nothing, that even Mandela himself was Mandela, Mbeki, Cyril Ramaphosa, and others all got mansions and seats on the major boards of South Africa, white economic boards. And he was sent to, if you like, the bush and the rural areas to make sure there was peace. But he was never compensated. And that therefore, when he became president, that's why he decided also to take care of himself. The beginning, if you understand what I'm talking about, of corruption, was planted within the ANC. And so the poor people in South Africa, poor Black people, have been left with nothing. And that was his achievement. That's what he set out to do. You want political power, we will give you political power, but it will be power with, or it will be responsibility without power. We will continue. The white elite will continue to hold power in South Africa. So I don't see why people are praising him. Yes, he got the Nobel Peace Prize. It was symbolic. The fact that he announced the release of Mandela. That's what he got the Nobel Prize for. And there have been a few occasions when the Nobel Peace Prize had been given for reasons which are simply symbolic gestures, rather than Nobel Peace Prize based on actual evaluation of contribution to world peace. So I wish him well wherever he is. And I hope that when he meets people like Steve Biko and co, they give him a piece of their mind.
Thank you for that analysis, sir. There is a point here on YouTube that I want to bring to your attention. This person is talking about your point around Lyndon Johnson, how he was treated as vice president, and the fact that when he became president, he never really spoke bad about Kennedy, particularly with the space exploration objective. I would leave you to respond to that comment, but then also piggyback on that the issue of Russia firing a missile into space, since this person has touched on space here. What do you think about the way Lyndon Johnson responded to that whole scenario with Kennedy? Obviously, Kennedy was assassinated, so maybe it wasn't quite as good. But what's your view on that comment from YouTube, sir?
No, Kennedy was an idol. The nature of the assassination, his youth, two young children, a beautiful wife, and so on. He was an idol, and it would have been political suicide for Johnson to have openly criticized the way he was treated under the Kennedy. But if you read the books written by his aides, not by him himself, but by his aides, he was very bitter. He was very bitter, and but going to the moon was something that was very, very popular with the Americans. And so politically, he needed to embrace that and piggyback, also to use your phrase on that, to elevate himself politically. Now, the issue of what Russia has done in space.
Yes, sir.
Please let me expand that a little bit.
Okay, sir.
Because actually, and I have to choose my words carefully here, I think that Putin is becoming the most dangerous actor on the international scene. Biden needs to be careful that in the way he reacts to Putin will not be equated with the way most of the world leaders reacted to Hitler. Ignoring Hitler's action until he started invading Poland and Czechoslovakia before they then decided to go to war with him. Here's somebody who has shot down in a test a satellite, one of their own, but the fragments could easily puncture not only the joint Russian-American space center up there, but the Chinese one as well. But you see, this wouldn't make a difference to Putin. Remember his background as a KGB agent. The KGB has no respect for human lives, none whatsoever. Right from the time it was formed by Lenin, the targeting and eliminating human lives was part the course for the KGB. The way he has amassed troops on the border with Ukraine, I will advise Biden, one, to send in the American paratroop division into Ukraine. That's the standby American interventionist division. Two, instead of concentrating all their armor in the east to face China, let him take some of that and really concentrate that on the European front to confront Putin. I don't think Putin wants war. He thinks he can get away with annexation of Ukraine. This program is not long enough to deal with the history of Ukraine and Russia. Because historically, those who went to settle in Russia centuries ago actually came from Ukraine. So Ukraine, in the psychological profile of the Russians, is not a foreign country actually. So you've got to be careful. If he thinks Biden is so fixated on checkmating the Chinese that he could get away, because he invaded Crimea and he got away with it. And this is the way Hitler started, and this is the way dictators operate. Now he's mounting all of this, and he is testing the will of Biden. If I were Biden, as I said, I will move that interventionist decision, because they are paratroopers. They can move within 24 hours. While we call on our NATO partners to now let Putin know that one Russian soldier in what is left with Ukraine, there'll be war between us. And I think he will stop his recklessness.
Sir, I'm going to throw one question, last question before we go this evening.
Here we go.
It's an easy one, it's a simple one. But this is from the United Kingdom. And there is a bill that is currently making its way through to Parliament. And within that bill would be the right for the Home Office to withdraw citizenship from a British national without notice. And my question to you is this, sir. What is your view on the right of a country to be able to withdraw citizenship from her citizens?
I have read that bill, and the full text of that bill is withdraw citizenship without notifying the citizen when it is not possible to inform the citizen, A. B, when it is not in the national interest of the United Kingdom to notify the citizen that is involved. And you know the background to this. I mean, frankly, this is because of what I would call lack of common sense on behalf of lack of common sense on behalf of British judges. When a British judge ruled that that girl who went to fight for ISIS had children there, and here they were beheading all sorts of people, had the right to come back to England to defend herself for not being allowed to come back. I mean, first of all, does that judgment make sense to you? They said we are preventing this person from coming into England. And I say, okay, but let her come in first to come and defend herself. If she loses the case, which country will take her? Then you are stuck with her. And yet that is judges at times don't live in this world. And I think that's why they are bringing in amendments to that, where it is not possible to inform her, or where in the national interest, it should not be done. And frankly, given the way terrorists operate these days, I think that governments, agencies need to be strengthened. You are not dealing with a period where gentlemen were fighting each other, where people knew their boundaries and what have you. No, I see nothing wrong with that bill. But of course, liberals will find everything wrong with that bill. I don't think anyway. Thank God, liberals don't run governments. Therefore, they are not faced with the actuality. I mean, I have been in government, and there are things that are happening that you have to react to, and yet you cannot even tell your people, because in telling your people, you are alerting a foreign agent that is here, you know what is up to, and so on. But reporters and journalists and university people will want you to go on radio and television and say why you want to do what you are doing, and what exactly you intend to do, even if it is going to create security problems for your own people and for the agents who are operating on the field for you.
Sir, thank you so much for this evening. There's so many other topics I was going to get to, and it seems like some of our viewers want you to spend a little bit more time dissecting de Klerk and South Africa, his impact on apartheid and that era. So I will be bringing that question back next week, and we will spend some time on that question next week. Again,
right.
it's from our viewers. We have to follow that lead in there. But thank you so much this evening, sir, for your time. We've really run out of time. I will try to keep to time next week, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you to our viewers. And see you same time next week. We're back 7 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. Nigeria. I also want to encourage, please just share the link. Hit subscribe at the bottom of the screen, so when we go live, you get the notification. Good night. See you next week.